Hi, hello, welcome back, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Chloe, and on this channel we talk about all things books. So today's video we are going to be doing my July wrap up and August reading plans, so let's just jump straight into it. I actually had a really good reading month in July. I got through 8 books, 4 of them being physical reads and 4 being audiobooks, which seems to be about my average. I tend to get through 2 books a week, one being a physical read, the other being an audiobook, so I'm pretty happy with how that's working out. I am a little bit ahead of my Goodreads goal, so I'm currently on 42 out of 60 books, which is virtually unheard of for me. Usually I go into a little bit of a reading slump during the summer, but the weather has been crap, so I think with it raining so much and me staying indoors more than I normally would have, I've got through loads of books, so I'm not complaining. Well, a bit, but anyway. So let's start with the audiobooks. The first one that I listened to was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, and I briefly spoke about this in my mid-year freakout tag, but if you haven't seen that video then I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is one of the few books that I have given 5 stars to this year. It's a fantastic story and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. Basically we follow our main character Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist in the 50s and 60s, and it's pretty much just a story about her career and the challenges that she faces being a woman in science in that time period, and the misogyny that she has to work against just to be taken seriously. It's a fantastic read. I know I've said it millions of times before, but please go read it if you haven't already. I think it's probably going to be one of my top books of the year. The next audiobook that I listened to was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and again this is a 5-star book for me. It's not usual that I get 5-star books back to back, but I was really lucky in June. It was obviously just a really good month. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is an amazing story. Like, there's not a whole lot of things that happen in it, but it was very thought-provoking, and I wasn't going to give it 5 stars, and then I realised a week later I was still talking about it and just wanted to tell everybody about it, so I felt like it deserved the 5. So in this book we follow our main character, whose name I just cannot remember, which is embarrassing because I've just said it was a 5-star read, but anyway. But basically our main character is unhappy in her life, and she, right at the start of the book, commits suicide. And she's taken to the Midnight Library, where she meets a librarian, and they tell her that all of the books in this library are different versions of her life had she made different decisions. Some of them were big changes, some of them were little ones, and she could basically open the book and try on every life until she found one that she liked. And it was all about her going through all these different versions of her life, undoing all of the regrets that she had, and trying to figure out in which of these lives would she be happy in, if any. So yeah, like I said, it was a very thought-provoking read. It wasn't the most fast-paced, action-packed plot, but then I don't think it was supposed to be. So yeah, again, I highly recommend it if you haven't picked this one up. Next up, I listened to I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Now, because this is a memoir, I haven't given it a rating because I just don't think that it feels right to rate someone's life experiences, but again, it was an excellent read. Jeanette McCurdy was obviously the Nickelodeon star. She starred in iCarly most famously, and basically it's her memoir all about her life growing up as a child actor and what she had to endure in that industry that she actually didn't want to be a part of at all. It was her mum who kind of forced her into it, and she continued on through that career just to make her mum happy. It was so heartbreaking to read at times. It definitely made me choke up a couple of times, and it was narrated by Jeanette McCurdy, so you could hear in her voice how emotional she got at times. I highly recommend the audiobook if you don't have the physical copy. I think it's probably one of the best audiobooks that I have ever listened to. The last audiobook that I got to was Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. Now, this one I have mixed feelings about. I flip back and forth between 2 and 3 stars for it. I just didn't like it. And I think that that's a little bit of a controversial opinion, because when I was looking up reviews for the book afterwards, everybody seems to love it. It has so many 5-star reviews. Everyone raved about it, but it just wasn't for me. I think I liked the idea more than the execution of it. I have actually filmed a full review for it, so I won't ramble on too much about it. But I think it was a debut fantasy, and it read very much like a debut. There was not a whole lot of world building. The magic system didn't feel very flushed out. It has an excellent underlying story. So it was all about this race of magi, or magic wielders, who are persecuted and face systemic racism just for being magic wielders. And I think the message behind that was excellent. I just don't think that it was a story that should have been squashed into a YA read and not dumbed down. I don't think that that's the right term for it, but it was... YA books are a little bit more fluffy than adult fantasy, and I feel like with that theme it would have been better as an adult fantasy. That's just my opinion. So yeah, I'm very conflicted by it. It had one of the most horrendous cases of insta-love in it I have ever come across as well, so I just could not look past that. I think I might get to the second book just to see if that's any better, but if the second book is equally as bad as the first, I don't think I will finish the trilogy. So I'll give it one more chance because everybody loves it, but I'm not hopeful, and it's definitely not going to be top of my priority list. Okay, into the physical books now. So the first one that I read in July was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is very quickly becoming one of my favourite authors ever. She's now an auto-buy author for me. I love everything this woman puts out. I would read her shopping list. That being said, this was not my favourite read of hers. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, only because it wasn't quite as plot driven as the rest of them were. So I've read Daisy Jones and I've read Evelyn Hugo, and there always just seems to be lots going on in those books, whereas this one was very much about the characters and their journey, which was fine. It's more of a me problem that I prefer plot versus character driven books, but I still really liked it. I had a great time reading it, and I finished it quite quickly actually. It was maybe about a day and a half that I got through it in. Basically, in this one, if anybody has read Evelyn Hugo, then one of the side characters in that, Mick Riva, who is a rock star, this follows his kids and what it was like for them growing up with or without Mick Riva as a father. So I think one of the things that I like most about Taylor Jenkins Reid books is that all of her characters, or at least a lot of the side characters, make cameos in other books, and I think that's so interesting. It just makes it so fun when you can pick out those little Easter eggs. Next up, I read The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I have done a whole review video where I just rambled on about how much I loved this book, so if you haven't seen that, then I will link it in the description below. But basically, I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This was my first ever Brandon Sanderson book, and I am so gutted that it took me so long to pick up any of his books, because it was just excellent. This is what fantasy should be. There were a few things that I didn't like about it. Obviously, this is a thick book. This is almost 700 pages, so the first half of it dragged in a little bit for me. Not dragged in because I finished this book in 2-3 days, but it did feel a little bit slow at times. But once the plot picked up, it was fantastic. Then I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. Now, I kind of did this wrong because this is actually it's sort of like a sequel, but not really, so more like a companion book to Mr. Wrong Number. And because of that, I didn't think that you had to read Mr. Wrong Number first, but actually it kind of spoils it for you, as much as a romance can be spoiled. So I think I would probably recommend actually reading it in the order that you're supposed to. But that being said, I did still really enjoy it. This was almost 5 stars for me again, but the ending just kind of, it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Well, that's not exactly true. But you know how in romance books we always have a third act conflict where something goes wrong, there's some sort of miscommunication, the main characters fall out and then they don't speak to each other for a really long time, and then they somehow reconcile and everything's all hunky-dory again. Well, I got to like the last 20 pages and that hadn't happened yet, and I thought, oh, okay, this is different. We're actually getting along, we actually like each other, things are going well. And then it happened. And as much as I don't want it to be a dragged out conflict, everything was just wrapped up really quick. It was a completely ridiculous miscommunication. Felt like it was just there for the sake of having a conflict, so it kind of just annoyed me a little bit. However, up until that point, I really liked this book. It honestly had me laughing so much. I think Lynn Painter is hilarious, and I will 100% be picking up more of her books. But yeah, it was just that unnecessary conflict that just, it rubbed me up the wrong way. The last book I got to, well, it wasn't really a book, it is a graphic novel, but it was Saga Volume 4 by Brian Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I have been slowly making my way through the Saga series. I read the first 3 volumes last summer, and it's taken me until now to get my hands on Volume 4. They never seem to have them in stock on Waterstones, and they're always really expensive to buy, even secondhand. And I just cannot justify paying £14 for something that's going to take me less than an hour to read. So I always keep an eye out to see if I can find them cheap secondhand, and I finally did. So yeah, I think I'd forgotten a lot of what happened, so it took me a little minute to get back into the plot. But when I did, I really enjoyed it. The graphics in this are just stunning. To be honest with you, this is the first graphic novel series that I've ever read, so I don't really have an awful lot to compare it on. So take my opinion with a pinch of salt, but yes, I do really like this one. I know that I'm quite late to the party on this one. Everybody's read it, it feels like, but I'm enjoying it, and I just hope it doesn't take me so long to get to Volume 5. Hopefully I can find it somewhere. Okay, I want to make a dishonourable mention to this next book, which I started right at the beginning of July and didn't like it and put it down, but then picked it up again and read a little bit more and then put it down again, and so on and so forth for the whole month. I still haven't finished it, but I am absolutely determined to get through this book, and it is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I don't know what it is, but I just find this to be such a slog. It's dragging in. I don't want to DNF it. I really don't want to, because I don't like DNFing books, even if I'm not liking them, because I still want to be able to give a full review of them, which you can't do if you don't know how it ends. I suppose I could spoil it for myself and just read like the wiki page or something, but I don't want to. I really want to persevere. I really want to like Casey McQuiston because everybody seems to love her, but I don't know what it is about this book. I think it's just taken too long. I'm 200 pages in and I'm kind of thinking to myself that the plot could be wrapping up in the next 100 pages, but I've actually got double that to go. So I think my plan for this month, sort of in August, is just going to be me trying to slowly make my way through it whilst reading other books, but this will just be there in the background. So that's a nice sort of segue into what my reading plans are for August. I've already started a few books, so obviously apart from One Last Stop, I am also reading Red, White and Royal Blue, also by Casey McQuiston, which I have to say has started out very well. I was a bit apprehensive picking this up because of the fact that I wasn't liking One Last Stop. I thought, I hope it's not just Casey McQuiston's writing that I don't like, but actually I started reading this today. I'm already 80 pages through it, and so far so good. I am enjoying it. I'm determined to have this one finished by the end of the week though, because the TV series comes out next week and I really want to have read the book first to see how they compare. I hate it when I watch a TV show first and then ruin the book for myself, so I'm determined not to let that happen. So yeah, this will be the first book that I get to. I have also already started reading This Woven Kingdom. Oh wow, that's a bit shiny. This Woven Kingdom by Tahara Mafi. I'm only about 30 pages in, so I've barely started it, but so far so good. I have never read any of her books before. And this is just stunning. Can we just take a minute to appreciate this cover? I think this was an Illumicrate version. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, I really can't wait to get to this one. I've heard really good things about it. So fingers crossed it will be a 4/maybe 5-star read. The last physical book that I definitely want to get to. Now, I try not to make my TBRs too rigid because I am definitely a mood reader. I'm not very good at sticking to them. I can make all the best plans in the world, but I just know for a fact that if I don't feel like reading something, I will not pick it up. That being said though, I really want to read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I've not read any of their books yet. This will be the first. And I'm kind of at the tail end of summer now, and I really want to read this before summer's over. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to make this one a priority this month as well. I also plan on getting through the new Blood and Ash book. I think it's A Soul of Blood and Ash or something like that. The book 5 in the series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This series is my guilty pleasure. I love it. I adore it. I can't wait to get to book 5. The plot leaves a lot to be desired, but it's just fun. I just enjoy it. So yeah, that's definitely on my list. And then I've got a few other audiobooks to choose from, but I'm not 100% decided on what they'll be yet. And then the rest of the month I'll just see how I feel. I bought a whole heck of a load of new books in July, which I have a haul ready. I'm pointing because that's where my pile of books are. But yeah, I have a haul coming for July, so I'll probably end up just picking a few books off of there if I have any more time to get to them. Okay, that is it for my July wrap up / very loose August TBR. Let me know what you guys plan on reading in August down in the comments below. And if you want to hear more of my bookish ramblings, please consider subscribing. I would really love to have you here. See you in the next one, guys. Bye!